Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the thirst for war and some of the things that I see going on in our country today. You know, as a Marine veteran, it always horrifies me at how quickly some people who never spent a day in uniform are willing to send my brothers to war. I come from a long line of veterans, and I think that there should be a solid cause, solid intelligence before you get to a point where you're sending men off to war. I hear things like, send a SEAL team or into Iran, and things like that concern me as well, because SEALs cost a lot of money to train, and these guys are the top of the line as far as infantry capabilities in the world. You've got them in Delta Force, and you've got several special forces outfits from around the world that are very elite, and the SEALs are certainly in that very top level elite class. I hear people say, well, we don't want Iran to get a nuke. Well, I don't want Iran to get a nuke either, but I don't know that, if they're in a position where they do end up getting a nuke, that it means that we have to invade. If you really think about it, the head of Mossad recently said the only reason Iran wants, the former head of Mossad, I should say, the only reason that Iran wants a nuke is to prevent U.S. intervention. And, that brings up a good point, and it brings us back to the root cause of many of these issues. And a lot of the root cause to our problems in the world are related to our foreign policy. We have an interventionist foreign policy. We're imperialistic. We've got 130-some bases around the world, military bases. And the bottom line is that's not the way that the founders intended this country to run. And there's a heavy cost for having all these bases, and a lot of people don't know. There's a cost to the local populations. There's a cost to the American taxpayer. And flat out, I mean, the honest answer is we just can't afford it. It doesn't get much more complex than that. If you just want to tackle it on the financial side, the United States currently borrows 40% of its annual budget every year. And so, that being said, if we're borrowing 40% more than we're taking in, that says to me that we cannot afford to keep all these bases open. A lot of people, when watching some of the recent debates, a lot of people had commented to me about, Ron Paul and his comments on Iran are a problem are a problem for him politically. He's not going to be able to overcome those issues. And when I talk to people about this, I say, look, step back for a minute. What Ron Paul is advocating is peace. And, I'm always amazed at how willing people are to go to war. I myself have been guilty of this in the past. I certainly fell for the line of bullshit that was sold to us during the most recent Iraq War, and the weapons of mass destruction. They're trying to get yellow cake uranium, and they sold every bit of fear to us possible, and the media lapped it up. And we as a country, and I lapped it up. I was an idiot. I didn't ask enough questions. I take responsibility for that. I fell in line with the government's way of thinking. And I vowed after that to not make that mistake again. There are over 4,000 people that died in Iraq. And to send them in, 4,000 people to their deaths for an illegal war, for something that we had no justification for, is absolutely inexcusable. And so now you get a liberal Democrat that comes into office, and you figure, hey, no problem there. Democrats are liberal. They don't want to go to war. They're peaceniks. Well, apparently that's bullshit too. President Obama, he sent our planes in to bomb Libya. That was illegal. We didn't declare war. That's unconstitutional. And he's a constitutional scholar, and I think he should be held accountable for that. I mean, he's one of the most educated presidents in modern history, and yet he turns around and doesn't declare war and sends our planes into bomb, and then tells the people that there are no boots on the ground, which that was bullshit, of course, too. That was not true. You know, and so you would think after what President Bush put this country through with war, that we would have higher qualifications, if you will, of what was willing to, what we thought was reasonable to build a case to go to war. And apparently that isn't so. I see the media selling this Iran war like nobody's business. You know, when I watched the Republican debates that were on Fox, I watched one of the Fox newscasters rephrase the question 5 to probably 4 or 5 times to try and make Ron Paul say that we had to go to war with Iran. And that scares me. This is very much exactly what happened the first time around. We were sold a line of bullshit the first time around, and I hope to God America doesn't get this line of bullshit sold to us again. And you know, I have to look at the left and wonder where their outrage is, to be honest with you, because I heard a lot of outrage when President Bush was getting ready to send people into combat, and as it turns out, that outrage was completely legitimate. I was on the wrong side of that argument. Now, the left is essentially silent because their boy is sending us to war. Well, you know what? After the Bush administration, I became a libertarian. I'll never vote for a Republican or a Democrat as long as I live, unless Ron Paul makes the Republican nomination, which I have probably as much chance as he does. Don't believe the hype, and don't agree to go to war. Engage people in conversation when they talk to you about it, and ask them, what is the purpose of going to war? We should have higher standards to go to war than we currently do. And beyond that, if you're just a fiscal conservative, then just flat out say, look, we can't afford it, because that's the truth. We can't. If you spend 40% more than you make each year, that's a problem. And that says right there that you can't afford to go to war. Now, that doesn't even take into account the human cost, okay? And there's a heavy human cost here. And I come from a long line of veterans, and I do not take that lightly at all. You know, there's people dying in these wars, okay? And granted, they may have volunteered to go, but if we had the right standards to go to war, it wouldn't be a problem with our voluntary military. There's a reason that out of all the Republican candidates, that Ron Paul has like an 80% lead in veteran contributions compared to all the other Republican candidates. There's a reason for that. And the reason is because veterans know they've been sent to war over some bullshit. Okay? Let's keep our people here. Let's end this thirst for war. And don't believe the hype. Engage people when they talk to you about it, and educate them. And you educate them and ask them to educate themselves. Let's end this bullshit.